Homeless, extreme poverty back in the 2000s was like being dropped into a RPG game with no tutorial, no map, no weapons, and the entire unemployed population of America hunting for you. You're living on less than $5 a day, in a decade where people were just starting to complain about $5 coffees and $12 sandwiches. While the world around you is streaming Netflix in HD, ordering food with apps and scrolling endlessly on smartphones, you're focused on one thing only: survival. Food isn't guaranteed. Clean water isn't guaranteed, nor is shelter. And if you're in America, it would make more sense to have a friend amputate your leg than foot the bill at a hospital. So much for good old Obamacare, am I right? Now, depending where you were born, this decade was one of the first where being at the bottom of the wealth ladder wasn't always the end of the world. If you needed money, you could panhandle. Maybe be a busker and save up for a smartphone which would open doors no other era had ever seen before. In the 2010s, poverty doesn't look like black and white photos anymore. It exists right next to luxury. You might live minutes away from glowing skyscrapers while struggling to eat. Every basic convenience most people take for granted becomes a daily obstacle. Staying warm in winter, charging a phone, getting basic education. If you get sick, that's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Healthcare isn't a right, it's a luxury menu you can't afford to read. Being homeless in the 2010s is like being permanently behind, watching the world speed forward without you. One street interview even described it as feeling stuck in time. Brokey. Finally, you figure out the rules of the game Mr. Homeless was playing, the shortcuts, even what it takes to win. But every time you try to make a real move, you lag out or your system crashes. One missed paycheck, one unexpected bill, one bad week. Everyone else seems to be playing with better gear, faster connections, built-in advantages. Think of it this way: you're not worse at the game, you're just locked behind a real-life paywall. You're not starving every day, but you're always one bad month away from disaster. This is where choices hurt. Do you pay rent or fix your car? Pay the home insurance or the cell phone bill? The definition of broke changes based on location. $35 a day might feel impossible to live on in the US, but life-changing elsewhere like Thailand. Still, the experience is the same: constant pressure, and poverty in the 2010s isn't just about money, it's about lack of freedom. You might survive, but you can't advance. No extra cash for education, no safety net for risks, no margin for mistakes. You might also feel lonely and socially excluded as the concept of shiny object syndrome was rising exponentially. You can eat, pay bills, and work, but you can't afford to fit in. Everyone communicates online, everyone needs a phone, everyone is connected, except you. Lower class. The lower middle class in the 2010s lives just above the danger zone. You probably weren't drowning in debt like the first two levels of wealth back then. And if you were, you had a job that paid enough to eventually pay off those debts. You're safe, but not relaxed. You might work at a Walmart, drive Uber, or be starting out in a trade, reliable income, and a roof over your head. You probably drive something dependable, not flashy. Your phone is a few generations behind, but it works. That is, until you try to download the latest iOS, now you're really screwed. And if you really wanted that new Xbox One or a snazzy hoverboard, you'd have to settle for a hand-me-down or maybe a refurbished one off eBay. You can pay your bills, you can save a little, but if your car breaks down or someone breaks into your home and steals your safe, everything goes downhill fast. Buying new clothes? That's a decision. A vacation? Planned months ahead. An emergency? Stressful. This class survives by optimization, budgeting, planning, min-maxing life. You're doing okay, and that's the goal. Not rich, not free, just okay. Normie. The middle class a decade ago was the balance point. Not struggling, not dominating, just stable. Probably people like you and me. You live in a nice house in the suburbs, and you earn enough to live comfortably. You've got healthcare, internet, streaming services, and maybe a yearly vacation. You can buy that new iPhone X without worry, but you might keep it for a couple years. You can eat wherever you want, Panera, Applebee's, Chipotle, and if it was a special occasion, maybe Ruth's Chris, but probably not anything like Nobu. You can spend without too much thought, just not recklessly. Jobs here are stable. You might be a phys ed teacher, journeyman tradesperson, or a successful car salesman. You don't fear every bill, but you respect money. Best of all, you were able to fully experience all the nostalgic joys of this decade, like streaming Rihanna and Drake's latest hits, going to see Golden State dominate the NBA, or getting to watch the Avengers in 3D. The middle class still trades time for income. You can't quit. You can't disappear. You're comfortable, but not powerful. Upper middle class. Upper class in the 2010s means breathing room. You live in a nice area, you might have a multi-car garage and a pool, or live in a high-rise apartment. If you have kids, they go to good schools and they get whatever they want for Christmas. Fidget spinners, Oculus Rifts, maybe a Fitbit and AirPods. Vacations are expected, not special. Mexico, Disneyland, you name it. You earn around 200 to 300 grand a year, after tax, through upper management, entrepreneurship, or maybe you just hit big on Bitcoin. Things along those lines. You invest, you plan, you're financially literate, you mimic the rich, Michelin star dining, designer clothes, sports cars, but you still check prices and occasionally hunt for deals. You don't fly private, you don't buy mansions casually, but you're close enough to wealth to taste it, but still far enough to respect it. At this time, it was increasingly popular to portray the lifestyle of the rich, or fake flexing. This was the perfect spot to do it. You're still stuck in the rat race, but the finish line is in sight. Affluent. Affluence in the 2010s is comfort turned into confidence. Money stops being stressful and starts being flexible. You don't worry about bills, you worry about options. You live in a mini mansion in a neighborhood that might even be gated, or maybe right on the ocean. You eat out regularly, travel all around the world, and invest without fear. You buy experiences and time. You have a financial cushion thick enough to sleep on. You're not famous, or maybe you are, but you definitely aren't on the Forbes list. But you're free, that's for sure. Low-key rich. Being low-key rich or upper affluent means you're no longer reacting. You're choosing. You earn far above average, probably close to 7 figures a year, and have multiple streams of income. You own multiple assets. You don't check price tags unless you want to. Summer homes on the lake, big fancy cars like G-Wagons and Range Rovers. High-end travel first class, or maybe even private. You have advisors instead of spreadsheets. Your money works while you sleep. You don't ask, "Can I afford this?" You ask, "Is this worth it?" Most likely, you were a successful business owner, popular influencer, or director of a decently sized franchise. You've beaten the system, quietly, or, as people were starting to say, escaped the matrix. Millionaire. Being a millionaire in the 2010s means your net worth has crossed 7 figures. Assets minus liabilities, and the math finally favors you. You're comfortable almost anywhere, though expensive cities still fight back. Your wealth is spread across investments, property, and businesses. You don't panic about money, you plan around it. Education, early retirement, business ventures, all realistic. Money stops being emotional, it becomes strategic. Multi-millionaire. Multi-millionaires play a different game entirely. 8 figures, sometimes 9, homes across cities or countries, investments diversified enough to confuse accountants. You make decisions based on interest, not necessity. You work because you want to, or not at all. Your wealth might not be liquid, but it's massive. Your lifestyle reflects it, quietly or loudly. You're insulated from chaos. How did you get here? You may have simply inherited your wealth from family, signed with a label as a mainstream singer or rapper, or starred on a professional sports team. Billionaire. Billionaires in the 2010s exist on a different scale of reality. If millionaires own homes, billionaires own architecture firm, the framing company, and the broker that insures the place. Spending thousands a day means nothing. Spending millions barely registers. Their money reshapes industries, shapes culture, funds technology, moves markets. They don't just consume the decade, they influence it. People like Jeff Bezos, Cristiano Ronaldo, Warren Buffett, and Jack Ma criticized, watched, scrutinized, but undeniably powerful. While most people trade time for money, billionaires trade money for time. And that's the final level. What do you miss most about the 2010s? I'd love to hear down below in the comments. It sure feels like just yesterday, but wow, things have sure changed. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers!